When my wife left me, it felt like my entire world had collapsed. We had been married for 4 years, and even though life was difficult, I truly believed love would be enough to hold us together. I worked tirelessly, often juggling 2 jobs just to cover our basic expenses. Then one day, she looked at me with cold, distant eyes and said she couldn't live in poverty anymore. Without hesitation, she packed her belongings and walked out. I begged her to stay, but she said she deserved better. Her words left me shattered and humiliated. For months, I lived in silence, replaying that moment again and again in my mind. I kept asking myself what I had done wrong other than not being wealthy. The nights were the hardest. I would lie awake, staring at the ceiling, imagining her happy in another man's arms. But instead of letting grief consume me, I chose to push forward. I decided to rebuild my life, not for her, but for myself. Slowly, things began to change. An opportunity came when a business partner saw potential in me. Together, we built something solid and meaningful. The money started coming in, but more importantly, I gained stability, confidence, and respect. 2 years later, I received something that almost made me laugh. It was a wedding invitation from her. She was marrying a wealthy man, and she had the nerve to invite me. Maybe she wanted to show me what I had lost. Maybe she hoped I would feel small again. At first, I considered throwing the invitation away. Then I realized this was my moment. I was no longer the man she had abandoned. On the day of her wedding, I arrived in a perfectly tailored suit, stepping out of a car that drew attention. As soon as I entered the hall, whispers spread. Old friends who once knew me as the struggling husband now stared in disbelief. I carried myself with quiet confidence, greeting influential people who were now part of my world. When my ex-wife saw me across the room, her smile faded. Her eyes widened, and I saw a flicker of panic. Later, she approached me, her voice slightly unsteady. "You came," she said, almost surprised. I smiled politely. "Of course, I wouldn't miss such an important day." Her groom noticed the tension, but she quickly tried to dismiss it. I showed no anger, no bitterness. Instead, I showed her exactly what she once believed I would never become. During dinner, guests asked about my life. I spoke honestly about my company, my travels, and the projects I had been working on. I didn't brag, I simply shared my journey. People were impressed, and I caught a glimpse of envy in her eyes as she listened. The man she had chosen for money began to look uneasy, as if sensing that her past still lingered. At one point, she pulled me aside. "Why didn't you tell me you would succeed?" she asked softly. I gave a quiet chuckle. "Because love should never depend on wealth," I replied. "But you taught me that lesson the hard way." She had no answer. Her eyes shimmered with emotion, but I felt no pity anymore. For the rest of the evening, I enjoyed myself. I laughed, danced, and left with dignity. I hadn't come to create drama or seek confrontation. I came to show her that walking away had been her greatest mistake. She had traded loyalty for money, and in the end, she lost something far more valuable. As I drove away from the venue, I didn't look back. My revenge wasn't about ruining her wedding day. It was about proving that the man she once saw as unworthy had risen beyond her reach. She would move on with her new life, but she would always remember what she gave up. That night, I slept peacefully for the first time in years. I realized that revenge doesn't have to be loud or cruel. Sometimes the sweetest revenge is simply living well and proving that those who doubted you were wrong. She left me because I was poor. She invited me to her wedding hoping to belittle me. Instead, she witnessed the life she could have shared, and that was all the revenge I ever needed.